Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our latest edition of Snack Talk. We have one of our long-awaited guests here. To tell you the truth, it's been one of our fan-voted favorites, so it took us a while to get to it. So happy we finally can. We had to have adjusted lunch schedules now, so it's coming to you earlier than normal in our lunch day and our work day. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the man himself, Mr. Carpenter. Mr. Carpenter, how you doing this? Still morning. How you doing out there, sir?
That's one of my biggest challenges. After lunch, I'm always like, all right, good afternoon, class. And it's like, oh, it's still morning. Sorry about that. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be part of the Snack Talk. It's a pleasure to be with you, Mr. Lopez. Yeah, it's a good day.
All right, and then, of course, because it is still morning, I think we call this brunch.
Right.
Not necessarily lunch. This is brunch for us. So luckily it's still Snack Talk. So it's whatever we're doing at that moment. So what are you brunching on? Snacking
All right. I'm a little embarrassed to admit a lot of my students know that I try to switch to salads, to be healthy, but it's not bad. I got a turkey sandwich, and then I kind of have a problem. I got pretzels. So I always have a stash of pretzels handy. So that's what I've got. What about you?
You know what, like I said, I'm still in brunch mode. I didn't pour out the orange juice for my mimosas. I still have my normal thing that no one likes, but it's all right. And then bananas, fruits, all this stuff. It's still brunch.
It's hard to eat a salad at 10:30 in the morning sometimes.
Oh my lord, yeah. So I have to have like 2 lunches.
Right.
That sucks. But anyways, thank you for sharing that. Nice to know I'm not the only one on the health kick right now either.
Right.
Thank you for that. Oh man. But we want to ask you some questions about, teacher life, how things been for you. We're back on campus now, so things probably prospectively have changed a little bit. So hopefully, have some fun with that.
Right.
One of the questions we always want to ask, starting off with, is what has led you to become, part of the education system, being a teacher and whatnot. What has led you to that?
Right. I just had a student ask me that yesterday, and they asked me specifically, when you were in high school, did you think you would be a teacher? And I think my answer when I was in high school was probably not, right? That was the last thing I was thinking about, was coming back and working in a high school. But I think there's always been a part of me that's enjoyed working with people. I don't think I'd enjoy working by myself in an office, without other people. So I've always enjoyed being around other people. In high school, I was involved in lots of things. And I think that's what's drawn me to teaching. Probably the main thing is it's such a job where I get to work with so many different kinds of people, and it's such a cool job that every year I get new people I get to work with, right? New young students who make me a better person, who really kind of keep me young, I hope. New colleagues come and go, where some jobs, I have friends who have some jobs and they talk about it's the same routine day in, day out, where, we have every year is a new year for us. So I think that's part of it. I've always enjoyed working with people, and I've always enjoyed history, so maybe in the back of my mind it's something I wanted to do. And it's funny when you think about life and destinies and stuff. I come from a family of educators. Both my mom and dad were in the education field, even grandparents and stuff like that, so I think maybe that's molded my worldview a little bit too.
Good. You've been teaching for a while though. See, I've only known you here for the past maybe 4 years, 5 years. It's kind of hard for me to remember that far back, I guess now. It's felt like longer.
Right, a little bit longer
this
than
year,
that.
it's felt like longer.
It feels a little bit longer. This year feels like a double year, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's fun. But you taught at other places before, so what has the pathway been to coming to North? Where have you been at before? And everything. How
Absolutely. Before I was a teacher, I worked at ASU. I got my degree at ASU, and I worked on campus. It was a great job. It was ASU Public Events, so we managed the facilities and stuff. I worked at the Super Bowl. I had some great jobs, but even then I realized it wasn't for me. I wanted to do something different, and I got my first job teaching for the Arizona Department of Juvenile Corrections.
Whoa.
That's right.
Wow.
Adobe Mountain School, Black Canyon School, off the freeway there. So that was quite an experience as my first job. I figured if I could do that, I could do anything. Those were students who were, I guess you could say they were locked up for whatever reason, for different offenses, and they were working on their GEDs and things like that. So that was quite an experience for me. And I did that for about a year, and it got really tough. And I decided one day to put in my 2 weeks notice. I said to my boss, I can't really do this anymore. I'm gonna look for something else. I put in my notice. I went home to my wife, told her I quit, and she said, guess what? I'm pregnant. So I turned around to my boss. I went back and said, you know what? Can we rethink what I said? So I stuck it out a little bit longer. But that was the summer where I did leave and I transitioned and got my first traditional job. And I worked at, I got a job at Loma Linda School, which is one of our great feeder schools for Phoenix Union. About 20 years ago, I think I got my job there, maybe a little more, because it's so cool. I still have students today in my class currently that I had back at Loma Linda that I knew. So I have freshmen and sophomores that remember me when they were in kindergarten and first grade. So it's like I have, of course, my own 2 kids who went to North, but then I have a family of kids, of course, my current students, but my Loma Linda family, those kids that I've known since they were so little, it's been so cool to me. So I taught at Loma Linda for 15 years, I think. And then they had the big shortage. I became the librarian, believe it or not, the media specialist. So I have still my library cert. So I was thinking about Smithers in there and whenever he's going to move on, maybe or not. It's always in the back of my mind. But I enjoy working in the classroom too much, I think. But I was media specialist at Loma Linda for 7 years, but they had the cutbacks in budgets. So came the time where I had to kind of look for something else, and I lucked out that I had a couple friends over at Alhambra High School who were teaching history, and it's a lot of life is who you know, right? And those words they can put in for you, because social studies can be a difficult job to get, whereas math, I think there's many more positions often. So I was fortunate to get a job at Alhambra. I worked there for 4 years, and I reluctantly left there because I loved it at Alhambra. It was just a longer drive. It was about 25 minutes from my house. I live right down the street from North, and both my kids were at North. And I figured if I was going to make the move again, let's do it now so I can bug my kids. Because my kids went to Loma Linda when I was at Loma Linda too. So I was there the whole 8 years they were there, which was priceless for me as a parent. And then to be here at
one of the students that have had you, or still have you, had asked me to ask this question, and I want to make sure I themed myself out for this one here. Mine's probably not as fancy as yours. It's a clip-on, but what is up with the bow ties? Where did it start? I mean, you've always been a dapper man, to tell you the truth. This is like life goals right here, ladies and gentlemen. You have no idea. I can never. I feel like it's a thing that I can never touch, and people here can't. But you got it going on.
I love it when other people. Mr. Nebeker's got one going sometimes. I'm trying to think of other teachers on campus who sported them too, or just for me, and this is all my personal view. It's like when I get up in the morning and I go to school, I need to get dressed to go to school. It's like this is my uniform. That's part of why I think for a lot of us. This time of confinement with coronavirus was so tough. How do I feel like I'm serious about what I'm doing if I'm on my couch in my pajamas, right? So for me to get in the mode of being my teacher self, I got to put on my shirt, my tie, and also I've always worn a tie when I went into school. It wasn't always a bow tie. But speaking of family and educators again, it was my grandfather. My grandfather was a professor at the University of Chicago. He taught Greek literature and humanities. And I never got to see him much because he lived in Chicago. But even when we would visit him on, family trips and stuff, and we were hanging out around, he would have like a bow tie on. And I was like, he was kind of that kind of person, very kind of serious, but he has a great sense of humor and stuff. But he was always kind of dressed that way. And he lived a great long age to his 90s. But when he passed away, went back for the funeral and everything. And my mom was settling up his estate, and she came back. And for Christmas that year, she gave me this little plastic bag, like a Fry's shopping bag, and inside was some bow ties. And she said, "These belong to your grandfather. Would you like them?" And I'm like, yeah. First of all, thanks, Mom, for the gift. I mean, I didn't get a PlayStation or anything that year. I got some bow ties. And I was like, no, yeah, sure. I thought that was cool. And I'd never worn a bow tie before, so the first thing I had to do was go on YouTube to figure out how to tie them and everything, right? Because it's very different than a normal tie. And so I tried it for a week. I was at Loma Linda. I was working in the library at that time, and I said, I'll see what the reaction is, and I wear these bow ties. And I thought it was going to be, snarky kind of neat, but I was very impressed. My students, these were 7th and 8th graders, even younger students, were like, wow, that looks kind of cool. Where'd you get that? Because again, this was 10 years ago now? Yeah. Before bow ties, I don't know, fashion had come and gone already, who knows, and they're still kind of in fashion, I'm not sure, but it was before it was a common thing to see someone with a bow tie. So I tried it out, and I was very impressed with the positive reaction that I got from students. So I wore them, and I tried to pass some out at school, and a couple of teachers got involved, and then my mom went back, and she got about 30 or 40 more of my grandfather's ties. So that's kind of where it comes from. And I have purchased my own now, and of course my mom still, it's kind of her go-to Christmas present for me. She gets me usually a new one every year. So my goal is to have a bow tie for every day of the school year. So how many would that be? How many days do we have?
Much.
100 or something like that. I've got enough to make it through definitely 9 weeks of school without having to repeat the same bow tie, which is kind of nice. And but the coolest thing is, as I talk about history with my students, we talk about quinceañeras and traditions like that, and we talk about weddings and wedding dresses and family heirlooms and stuff like that, because I was at Loma Linda, and this was an 8th grader that said that to me. I was going to lend my tie to another teacher, and I already told her the story that it belonged to my grandfather. She stopped me and said, "Mr. Carpenter, you can't do that. That's a family heirloom." And I went, "Oh, you're absolutely right." And I wore that same bow tie over to see my mom that day, and she said, "Is that one of my dad's ties?" She started crying. So, how often do we get to wear like our family history with us and to remind us of who we are and where we came from, So that's kind of why the bow ties are special to me for a few reasons. So that's the long-winded story of the bow ties.
This is probably the one thing that I think some people have in their heads. And I've always thought it too. I always thought you like being way too classy for me in a sense. I'm a jeans and t-shirt guy, to tell you the truth, like grandpa related type stuff. He was a grease monkey, so guy kind of rubs off a little bit. But even then, when we have our Spirit Day, ladies and gentlemen, you'll have like whatever shirt it is, but underneath that collar shirt and that bow tie popping out still keeps this guy right here.
It's a habit, yeah.
Still has a standard. So you've always been a classy gentleman.
Thank you.
It's always to me, it's always cool to see it. And like I said, never gonna touch it. That is your thing. I barely even wear the normal ties. All right, well, let's go ahead and get back to some of your involvement here on campus. You talked a little bit about some of the things you're involved with on different campuses, as the Media Tech over there at Loma Linda, and then going to Alhambra, and then over here. What are some clubs and programs that you've been a part of?
Probably the biggest thing that I've been a part of here at North that's made the biggest difference for me has been Link Crew, which I think we're in I'm losing track. It's our 3rd year doing Link Crew now, our 4th year? It's either our 3rd or 4th. Again, with coronavirus, I'm losing track of just years at all. So that's probably the way that a lot of students have gotten to know me, besides teaching history, is working with Link Crew and the support of Stugo and other organizations on campus to help us give Link Crew a big start here. We're hoping to kind of probably have a little bit of a rebuilding next year with so many students being off campus and coming back on, but it's been a really valuable experience to me. It's given me a chance to meet so many students that I wouldn't have met, especially juniors and seniors, and of course, meeting so many freshmen and hopefully making their freshman experience a little more welcoming.
Right. You probably see some of the other students from your elementary schools too.
Yeah, and again, that's the coolest part about it. So if students aren't familiar with what Link Crew does, we're a tiny bit like Stugo, where I give Stugo the props, where Stugo does everything to make our school better, right, in so many different ways, Mr. Lopez and his crew. Where Link Crew, we kind of work as an organization to make school better primarily for our freshmen, to build the community. So we usually do a big assembly when school starts, and then we have our Link Crew leaders work with a crew of freshmen to kind of help them and mentor them and assist them as they need to during their freshman year. And the main way we did it this year was through teams. Each of the Link leaders had their own little crew of freshmen where they kind of contacted them through teams continuously, had chat groups and so on. And it's a great way for someone, if they need help, if they have a question and they're not sure who to ask, this gives them someone else to reach out to.
Good, that's good. What has been your most memorable moment so far with this program?
Oh gosh, so many. I was so proud of everything we did last year. Really, we did some nice events for our freshmen. Probably just surviving the first big assemblies that we did, with our Link leaders, because it was such a big thing to run. If you think about the size of our freshman class, we could have 600 or 700 students show up, and we did an assembly with them, and our Link leaders were so successful in just kind of building those connections with the freshmen that first day of school, because first impressions can be so important, and that's what we're trying to do with Link Crew. And even though it's an organization built to help our freshmen, I think my fondest memories are seeing my Link leaders and how they change and grow as people, as leaders. It's such a cool program because it's helping the freshmen, but really I think it's helping our juniors and seniors even more, because I've seen students who think even I as a teacher said, "You're going to be a link leader?" I'm not, I would think to myself, I'm not so sure. And then to see what they did as juniors and seniors, see them, turn into the leaders and turn into people who are outgoing and not afraid to make connections with other people. That's probably been my greatest joy as a teacher and part of this organization is, I love helping our freshmen, but seeing what it does for our juniors and seniors to develop their leadership has been amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I will say this too. It's been cool to see you guys with like the little mini fiesta outside.
Exactly, those little things.
The mini carnivals. All right. Yep. What else have I noticed? You guys going to when we had advisories, you guys going to those classes, checking in with them.
Really proud of what they were doing then. They were teaching classes. We were almost once a month they were doing that for our freshmen. Topics from everything from suicide awareness to what clubs were available on campus. So we're really hoping, and again, looking at our schedule next year, what that'll be like to kind of ramp that up and get that going again.
Yeah, and then like you said, these juniors and seniors having ownership to leaving a legacy while they graduate, and knowing that things they share and experiences with these students, it's going to continue on. So that's an awesome thing to see. It definitely is. So shout out to the Link crew. You guys are always doing an awesome job. Much respect to all, and also all you other the adults that are with you.
Right.
If you see them in there, they get involved.
Miss you, Mr. Haugen, Miss Frazier, Miss Nearhart. We have such a great team working together. We really do.
It's pretty awesome. So much love and respect to you guys for that one. For the last part, we'd like to have our staff members have an open floor, if you may. Now before it was kind of fun because you're at home when you said this. Now we are here. Alrighty. If you give a message to the Mustang community, students, staff, the families out there and everything, what would be something you'd like to tell them today?
I would just say hang in there. Let's make it together through these next couple months. Keep working hard. Keep doing what you need to do each day. I know it can be hard because it doesn't seem quite like we're back to normal yet, but we're not sure what normal is going to look like. So just keep getting there, and we're going to get there together because we're a community, and I hope we do get to a new normal together happily, and we need to do that together. So keep fighting the good fight, keep helping each other, and we'll get through this together.
Well, thank you for your time this afternoon, Mr. Carpenter. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Carpenter, legend himself, the Bowtie Mafia is in the house.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. It has been a pleasure as always. Keep doing your good work too.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thanks.
And as always, make it a great day, Mustangs. I'm gonna start recording right now.